After losing everything is the kind of headline that makes this story sound like one dramatic collapse and one heroic comeback. But the real answer is stranger, smarter, and honestly more useful. Lumber Capital Log Yard built a YouTube empire not by escaping sawmill work, but by turning that work itself into the product people wanted to watch. Lumber Capital Log Yard did not start as a content business. It started as a Pennsylvania family operation trying to squeeze value out of hard, physical work. The early path was messy but practical. Residential tree removal first, then firewood, then logging, then sawmilling. That matters because it shows this was never some creator who bought a flannel shirt and pretended to be blue-collar online. The Breon family kept reshaping the business to survive tougher markets, long hours, and the kind of setbacks that kill smaller operations. Ken Breon was putting in brutal weeks just to keep material moving. Over time, the family structure deepened too. The operation became multi-generational, with different family members taking active roles in the mill and lumber side. So, before a single YouTube upload mattered, the real business was already there. But that foundation alone was not what changed everything. The first big twist is that the viral version of this story is slightly wrong. Publicly, there is no clean documented moment where the Breons literally lost everything in one catastrophic collapse. What the record really shows is something more believable. Repeated shocks, constant pivots, and years of reinvention. And honestly, that makes the story stronger. A total wipeout is dramatic, but it can feel random. What Lumber Capital built was harder. They survived downturns, natural disasters, labor-heavy years, and the endless pressure of turning raw timber into actual cash flow. That meant finding better uses for every tree, better margins for every job, and better ways to waste less. Then came the crucial timing. Their YouTube channel did not launch until August 2020. By then, the physical operation already existed, so the videos were never replacing the business. They were amplifying it, and that difference explains why viewers stayed. So how does a sawmill become a YouTube empire? Not through one viral hit, not through fake drama, and not through ad money alone. The answer is that Lumber Capital figured out how to make ordinary millwork feel like repeatable programming. Think about the material they had. Logs coming in, boards getting cut, species differences, drying problems, customer demand, equipment upgrades, orders moving out. For most businesses, that is boring internal workflow. For Lumber Capital, it became content categories. A day at the sawmill, milling white oak, high-demand lumber dimensions, quiet, satisfying process footage, even sawmill ASMR. That is a very different mindset. They were not filming random shop days and hoping the internet cared. They were packaging expertise into formats audiences could return to again and again. Woodworkers watched for knowledge. Customers watched for trust. Hobbyists watched for ideas. And casual viewers watched because competent people doing real work is weirdly addictive. That is the core of the empire. They did not invent a new identity for the camera. They found a way to make their real identity endlessly watchable. But the real proof came when attention started turning into leverage. By April 2026, the scale was no joke. The channel showed 243,000 subscribers, 1,070 videos, and more than 92 million views. For a niche sawmill business in Pennsylvania, those are massive numbers. More important, recent uploads were still pulling strong view counts fast, with some videos reaching tens of thousands of views within days. That tells you this was not dead subscriber inflation. It was active repeat viewership. People were coming back. Outside validation mattered too. Woodworking Media noticed. Woodworkers Journal gave Lumber Capital an author presence and published milling and wood species content connected to the brand. That is a major signal because it moved the family from YouTubers with a mill into a trusted educational voice inside the woodworking space. And the website made the model even clearer. This was not just a channel sitting next to a business. It was a traffic engine feeding a store, product pages, memberships, merchandise, fan support, and shippable lumber-related goods. The views were nice. The conversion path was better. Then came the upgrade that made all of that traffic more valuable. The turning point was not simply uploading more videos. It was aligning better content with a better operation. That is where this story shifts from clever marketing to real business transformation. In 2025, Lumber Capital added a kiln system that could handle up to 3,500 board feet of lumber, up to 16 feet long. That sounds technical, but here is why it matters. Better drying means better product quality, better usable inventory, better access to hardwood buyers, and better margins. In other words, the camera was growing the audience at the exact same time the equipment was growing the value of what that audience could buy. That is the genius move. A weaker business might use YouTube to decorate mediocre operations. Lumber Capital used YouTube while making the underlying mill stronger, so every new viewer was more useful than the last one. They were not just seeing logs turned into boards, they were seeing a more capable company. And this happened in a rough Pennsylvania hardwood market where producers were facing labor shortages, supply chain headaches, tariff anxiety, and uneven demand. Plenty of operators were just trying to survive. The Breons did something else. They diversified, they modernized, they made the work legible to outsiders, they turned proof of work into media and media into trust and trust into sales. That is the moment the sawmill stopped being only a local operation and started becoming a scalable brand. By 2026, the business looked less like a viral curiosity and more like a fully integrated machine. The shop was active, the blog was current, the video output was steady, the channel was still drawing strong interest, and the revenue stack was broader than a lot of viewers probably realize. There was lumber. There were smaller shippable packs and blanks. There were byproducts. There was merchandise. There were memberships. There was direct fan support. There was community. And because the content came from real daily work, the business never had to fake relevance. The footage kept proving the product. That is also why the brand feels durable. If ad rates drop, the store still matters. If product demand softens, the audience still matters. If local constraints limit long stock shipping, smaller retail items can still move. It is not one revenue stream. It is an ecosystem built around visibility and credibility. So no, Lumber Capital Log Yard did not abandon the sawmill and become a media company. They built a sawmill with a media engine attached. Here's how they really did it. They survived long enough to build a real operation, filmed work people already trusted, turned that footage into repeatable content, and then connected attention to products, upgrades, and community. The empire was not built after the sawmill story ended. It was built because the sawmill story never stopped. Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpicked these videos, which we recommend you watch next. If you have a question, drop it in the comments because we read everyone. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.